there was not denial. It was just like, I can get away with it.
Do you think there is a correlation to this level of addiction and a level of high performing?
I could kill 1,000 people in my mind all day. That doesn't mean I pick up the hatchet. I think we're all crazy.
What you just talked about there was recognizing moments where my power could be taken or I can empower somebody else. And in doing so, I am continuously empowering myself.
We wouldn't want it. I know the end. And that's what messes people up, because we want the dream and we think we know how it's supposed to go. But when we face an obstacle, what do? Most people quit. It didn't go as planned. It can never go as planned because life is too unpredictable. There is no plan. There is a plan to stay present and have empowering rituals and routines and journal and do all these things. But then you've got to play the cards you're dealt in life, and most people can't. Hi, this is Mike Diamond, and welcome to Ever Forward Radio.
Mike, before we kind of dive really into the questions, just want to start off with a little preface for the listener and viewer here, just so they get a better familiarity with you before we get into your story. How long have you been in recovery as of today?
So I got sober April 16th, 2006. So what are we talking? 17 years and what, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, here we are, August 2023. And how long would you say that you were suffering from addiction?
Oh, God. So this is a really good question, because the first time I was ever drunk, someone got me drunk at 4 years old.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
and
right.
I nearly died of alcohol poisoning.
So did you get hooked then, do you think? Or when do you have the first attachment to,
12.
I'm hooked on this? 12.
12.
Okay.
But the funniest thing is, as a 4-year-old, I think if I got my son drunk at 4, he wouldn't drink. So the alcoholism was in my blood.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why would I keep drinking? Like, the feeling did something to me. You know what I mean? I just kept drinking to get drunk.
We're going to get there.
Yeah.
We're going to get there. So I want to ask you, does an addict know they are an addict and choose to make the same unhealthy and potentially devastating choices, life choices anyways? Or are they truly living in denial about their situation?
That is such a good question. I didn't think I was an addict. I just could, because I could work hard, play hard.
So you could navigate
Yeah.
these choices and, air quote here, living a normal daily life. You're like, I got this. And
I think it's an insidious, like they say, it's cunning, baffling, and powerful, because it when we're on, like I always say, Robert Downey Jr., whether I think he smoked crack, whatever it was, I always say.
I'm pretty sure he did everything.
Yeah, he did everything from crackhead to Iron Man. Look at the stretch. Do you know what I'm saying?
So if I start smoking crack,
right, could I be Iron Man? Right.
I would love to be
yeah, exactly. So for me, there was not denial. It was just like, I can get away with it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I could perform at such a high level. Well, I mean, Darryl Strawberry. How do you smoke crack and do all that crazy stuff and then turn up for the Mets or whatever it was and hit the ball over the fence?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I think if people enable you and people don't pull you aside, and I think it's really hard for people like celebrities and people that are in the public eye, like especially like an Amy Winehouse, right? Super successful, but you could see that, everything was falling apart, but then she could get up and sing. And then, so I think for me, it was like, all right, for me, it wasn't fun anymore. It sounds weird. I didn't drink and do drugs to meet you. I'm the same crazy person. I just enjoyed doing coke and drinking. And then I was in the club business and entertainment business. So it wasn't, and then it's just
that kind of whole lifestyle. Yeah. It wasn't just one specific, this drug or this drink. It was everything that kind of embodied.
Yeah. And the problem is, I could bounce back real good. Like, I could do an 8 ball of cocaine, drink vodka all night or Jägermeister, and the next day get up and go to the gym. See, that's messed up. And because of that, because I never missed a workout.
So therefore you're like, I don't have a problem.
How do I have a problem?
If I can do this, if I can be a contributing member to society and go to the gym and work out, then I clearly, all this other stuff, I must have it in control.
And it's the worst thing. I was in better shape and fitter than 99%. Yeah.
Wow.
Like I was fitter than anyone and I was cracked out of my brain. And then who was ever going to, even when I said to someone I stopped drinking and doing the coke, they're like, you had a problem, but you're in the gym. all the
Right.
time."
Yeah.
Do you see what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's not, it's denial, but it's called like, it's like, it's a sickness because why should I be able to perform at that level?
Do you think there is a correlation to this level of addiction and a level of high performing?
1,000%. I am wired completely different. I am completely different. Why? Like all right, I'll give you a perfect example. 2017, my appendix burst. Okay. Now I didn't know my appendix would burst for 2 days.
How did you not know that?
I thought it was colitis pain. So it was my birthday. I went to the gym, and every year on my birthday, I try to do something challenging. So I looked up in a Guinness World Record thing. Oh, the most pull-ups. I think it was 340 pull-ups in an hour with a weight vest on.
That's pretty damn impressive.
Right. So I thought, all right, I'll put a weight vest on and I'll see if I can do 300 in an hour, which is 5 pull-ups every minute, right? 6, 5, 300. I did it. Stomach cramps, feeling horrible. I got home.
You did 300 pull-ups.
Yeah.
Weighted vest.
Yeah.
With a burst appendix.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was burst. So check this out. I just thought it was stomach pain from a colitis. I get home that night to have dinner. It's my birthday. During that day, my wife came in and said, surprised me. We knew we were having a baby. We didn't know the sex. And she said, we're having a baby boy. Let's go for dinner. And I'm like, yeah. And I was laying there for 2 days. Now I've been sweating. Oh, it's colitis. I went then down on the couch because she's pregnant because I didn't want to wake her. And I was like, yeah, my stomach's really bad. So I went to use the bathroom. Now with colitis, Crohn's disease, or any diverticulitis, they call it flaring, which means you have diarrhea. So I went to use the bathroom. I didn't have diarrhea. I was like, oh no, it's either my gallbladder or my appendix. So she came in from downstairs and she's like, are you all right? I said, look, I don't want to panic you because you're pregnant, but I think my appendix burst. They rushed me to the ER. They did a CT scan, right? I was in septic shock.
Of course, yeah.
My appendix had burst 2 days before. I remember when it burst, but I thought it was just a sharp pain. The doctor says to me, you're 50-50 to live, right? This is what he tells me. Because it was a 4-hour surgery. I was in the hospital 8 or 9 days. They removed, I think, 7 or 8 inches from my intestines.
Wow.
Lost 50 pounds, emaciated.
Wow.
He said, if you don't remove your colon, you'll be done. It's going to be rotted. I said, no, keep my colon. I healed myself naturally. I took some pain medicine and antibiotics, obviously. And then a year and a half later, I ran 30 half marathons in 30 days with a hernia. And I'd only run 1 half marathon a little bit before that to push my son in the stroller.
Why would you jump to that far end of the spectrum after just what you went through?
Because I watched a woman run 100 miles and it's like, how do you do that? So I pushed my son for 1 half marathon just to see if I could do it. I thought, I'm going to go run for a month. Now that's a crackhead. See what I'm saying? I can go to that extreme.
Wow.
Like I get called on a detox. No one will do the detox. I spend 10 days with someone and I help them talk 2 hours of sleep. I just walk them through it and they stay sober. So it's like, that energy doesn't go anywhere. I have to learn how to channel it.
You got to learn, develop a different relationship with it.
I look at it like this, right? Marlon Brando said it perfectly. They said, do you believe in acting school? He said, acting school is great to practice and learn the craft, but a tiger never goes to jungle school.
Damn.
Right?
I haven't heard that before.
I'm a fucking honey badger.
Wow.
I'm an addict. I have generational trauma. My ancestors came from nothing to Australia. There was a lot of shit I had to walk through. Trauma, mental abuse, physical abuse, right? And addiction in my bloodline. Then there were super entrepreneurs, super creative, great athletes. That's in my DNA, right? That doesn't go anywhere. So when I write a book like A Dose of Positivity, dose is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. There's empowering ways to get your dose and disempowering, right? So 2 motivations you and I have: avoid pain, gain pleasure. So how do you want to get your dose? right? So when
It's going to happen anyway.
anyway,
Yeah.
so I have to know the honey badger that lives inside of me. I don't ever walk back. I walk forward. It's just in my DNA.
You're in the right place for that.
Right?
Yeah.
If there's an issue, I walk forward. I walk into the flames. Some people want a trophy for running out of the burning building. I run into it. That's just who I am.
That's your norm. This feels right.
Is it nature or nurture? I don't know. It's just I only go on what feels right.
When you were, because you've already shared, you unpacked a lot with your family history, generational trauma, the types of professions, entrepreneurs, creatives. When you were learning all of this, was it more empowering for you to go, oh, this makes sense, I can kind of attach meaning, or there's some explanation? Or was it overwhelming, like, how am I ever going to escape this? If this is in my blood, there's no way I stand a fighting chance. Because I think a lot of people go that route. They'll try to unpack what happened to my family, what happened to my grandparents, what is in my blood, what are these personality types? And I think most people will come up against that split decision. I don't have a shot in hell, or, okay, this is useful information for me to take control of.
See, for me, I like to unpack it because I'm not afraid. Like, when people say they don't they don't want to spend time with the thoughts in their head, right?
Right.
I could kill 1,000 people in my mind all day. That doesn't mean I pick up the hatchet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we're all crazy.
So you can better understand.
Yeah,
what's
I
going
just know
on
where
up
it's
here,
coming
what's
from.
reality. Okay.
I know, and it allows me to forgive people. See, if I know that my grandparents came from nothing and my grandparents were really hard on my parents and they didn't have the tools to manage their emotions and no one talked about their trauma and their pain, then what did they do? They just downloaded their pain and suffering and fear and anxiety or whatever onto me, right?
So you don't go to blame, you go to grace.
I go into like, well, you didn't have the tools.
Interesting. Yeah.
You didn't.
I mean, that's the ideal place for us all to get, right?
But it's true, isn't it? Think about it. Like,
course.
if I look, a resentment, if I have a resentment at you for acting a certain way, does it change you? No. And another thing I've done is this. I meet people where they're at. So, and this is what gives me grace. When I started to read about, really go deep into Buddhism, right? So you've got Buddha who had the palace and his dad tried to keep him away from the reality. Then he went to the reality of the village and he saw suffering. So he's like, well, you're trying to, this is real. So then he emaciated himself, right? And then he's like, that doesn't work, but the palace doesn't work. I need to find the middle ground. And if you look at Buddhism, the Eightfold Path, it's the middle ground, right? So I go, okay, there was a lot of pain and suffering in my life, but people before me suffered pain. They just, to say they didn't have the tools, you have the tools because Buddhism, Stoicism's been around.
We all have them. It's just first you got to have the awareness to unlock the tools.
And you want to actually take time to look at yourself, right?
True, yeah.
So I go, okay, those people suffered, they passed the suffering down. And I go, wait a second, but what happens if I was born in a palace and comfort? Would have I done the work to go into the suffering and find myself? So without the suffering, I didn't find myself.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it relieves me of the pain of blaming someone.
Yeah.
Where before I was really angry at people that abused me, but then I go, well, you're abused. I got to forgive you. You know what I mean? And I let them go. Because at the end of the day, what we don't work on works on us.
Ooh, I like that. Say that again.
What we don't work on works on us. And I always say, if you do the work in the dark, right, you shine in the bright lights. If you don't do the work in the dark, you get exposed in the bright lights.
That could not be more true as to why we're sitting down here today. I was sharing with you earlier the background of Ever Forward, and I'm in the light now, but I was in the dark for 15 years, just not dealing with this traumatic death and just stuffing emotions down for a decade plus. And you don't realize, I think, how much you're living in the dark when you're living in denial. Because you think like, oh, no, I'm good, I got it. I can just always go find another light place to live, you know? But that's denying this source that is keeping you in constant pursuit of trying to find the light. But then when you turn and face it, like, oh shit, I am the light,
Yes.
you know?
And I think the hardest thing, like we're all going to suffer loss, right? Nothing's permanent.
Suffering is inevitable.
Suffering's inevitable because everything's for rent. I can't even take this body with me. Everything's for rent, right? When you face your creator. So when I look at people that like are building these fake lives, right? Because we see it all the time, right? I just tell the truth. Like I just go, yeah. And people got upset with me because a lot of people, ashamed that they fucked up or they did drugs. I'm like, I screwed up all the time. That's what are you going to do? I just don't screw up now. But it doesn't matter where we go, right? It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter what happens tomorrow. In all reality, I am sitting here on a podcast with you. That's it. This is real time. Here and now. Right? So think about this. Yesterday, I got up early, just say, and I read, I meditated, I didn't get crazy in traffic. I did everything. Okay, that was yesterday. What am I doing now? What happens this very second when I leave this? Because I could walk down the street and this could be the last podcast I ever do, right? So you have to be so comfortable in the uncomfortable, in the present, the microscopic present of now. That's it. Because I don't know what's around the corner and you're not supposed to. And that's another reason that people can never turn a dream into reality. So I'll tell you why. You don't know the person you're going to have to become.
Oof. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To turn the dream into reality. Now, how's this catch-22? Follow this for a scenario. Let's just say you and I go to the movies, right? And we want to see a movie. And someone comes out of the movie and tells us the end. You don't want to go see the movie, right? Right? So if we knew the end of our movie, we wouldn't continue on the journey.
It would completely change the journey.
We wouldn't want it. I know the end. And that's what messes people up because we want the dream and we think we know how it's supposed to go. But when we face an obstacle, what do? Most people quit. It didn't go as planned. It can never go as planned because life is too unpredictable. There is no plan. There is a plan to stay present and have empowering rituals and routines and journal and do all these things. But then you've got to play the cards you're dealt in life. And most people can't.
Why is the present moment, you think, the most difficult for most people to really to sit with and be with?
I don't think we're taught. Because we'll put it this way, what do we crave? Novelty. Right?
Stimulation.
Dopamine.
Yeah.
Right? Dopamine hit, right? So, and I think the world is purposely designed like that, right? We're always chasing
these things.
Exactly, right? We're always chasing the carrot and we're trying to avoid the stick. Now, the brain, the primitive part of the brain, the amygdala, the lizard brain, right, is always scanning for danger, right? So who teaches us from the beginning of time when we're young kids to stop, regulate our breathing, right? Slow down, stop. You're triggered. Is the danger gone? They don't. They keep us in fight, flight, freeze, and feed, right? Bad news coming in. Oh my God, how do I alter my mood? But if we're taught to slow down and regulate the mood, not alter it, then we can master our thoughts and emotions. But we're not taught that. So sitting by yourself in the silence and watching the thoughts and going, that's interesting, and then coming back to breath, that's difficult because it's training. It's retraining our mind and body and our soul to slow down.
I think you said it. That's interesting. That's the part that I hope most people can get to, and what I can share where I have gotten in this practice of being present, being in stillness. Shout out Ryan Holiday again. And even now with I'm relatively new in the meditation train, is just truly recognizing, but even beyond that, recognition and acceptance and true belief that a thing is. Just because a thing is does not mean that I also am that thing. Particularly when it comes to feelings and emotions and stress response and anxiety, worrying about something and regret in the past and anxiety about what has not yet come to pass or maybe will never. But just go, that is a thing. I am not that thing. just because I have a perception about it does not make it honestly always true. And if that's true, that something is not always true of my perception as I relate to it, then like I have a lot of power over that.
Yeah.
I can choose to navigate my life, my thoughts, everything differently to really circumnavigate that.
Well, what you said is perfect. Choice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we realize how many choices we have.
Oh my God, no.
Right?
No.
And especially growing up, because like society until like recently, it's like, well, if you do this, right? If you get a degree or become a doctor, or you do this or you do that, you'll have a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I tell people, it's like, why did you choose that partner? And they're like, well, I thought, but who gave you the information? Well, you know, my parents did this, or society did this, or culture says this. I'm like, okay, so what are these rules? Who constructed these rules?
My God, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you strip, like I said to someone the other day, I was like, the most important thing in any relationships is values and rules. And they're like, what do you mean? Then I said, I'll tell you why. Years ago, I owned a club with rock stars. And let's just say people talk about using value, the fun as a value.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun for me to do cocaine and party. It was. And this girl asked me on a date. I said, absolutely. So we partied a little bit. And then she's like, you know what's really fun is like getting up in the morning and running marathons. I was like, she's out of her mind.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Right? I do rails of cocaine. I can't run with this chick in the morning. So I went on a couple of dates. It's just like, that's not fun. You're going to kill me.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Mm.
Now, I get sober. And she messaged me when I was doing the 30 half marathon. She goes, Diamond, do you remember how you didn't think it was
There we
fun?
go. Yeah.
I was like, see,
Yeah.
value is fun. Rule now is for me to get up at 4 where I used to go to bed at 4.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at your values when you sit down with someone, and no one does it, and ask yourself, what do I value, but why do I value it? And what is the rule? Because some people aren't even playing in this with the same rules in the same arena. And they wonder why they get home. And it's not that they don't like their spouse or do like their spouse. They just don't know who the person is.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right? Because they've spent no time. The most important thing that we're not taught, and people ask me, why do I get up at 3, 4 in the morning? I'll tell you why. I get time with me. I get time to write down my thoughts, write journal. I get time to sit with my thoughts when I meditate. I get time to stretch my body, which really is a pain in the butt, but I have to do. I get time to read, right? I get time to reflect. I get time to write down my goals. I do all this before the world wakes up.
And that's all your choice.
So my choice, you know why? Because then when information comes in, I have the ability to ask myself, is it aligned with my purpose, my goals, right? And then if it's not, I'm like, it's not right for me, but let me see if I can help you or be of service and pass it forward. Mm-hmm. Where before I would take in all the information, not spend enough time with who I am and what I want and why I want it, and my rules and rituals and routines and whatever, and just take on it, be a people pleaser, not set boundaries, let all these people down, get frustrated because I thought I had to be all these people for everyone else. So,
in your addiction.
Yeah. So now I'm like, yeah, I can't. I have to say pass. And I let down. It's just not, I just don't have the time. Yeah, but no, I don't have the time. I can't help you. I'm the wrong guy. I just can't do it. And it's setting those boundaries and not people pleasing and moving away from cultures and family rules. And, you know, because like Europeans, the worst. People pleasers, gaslighting. They'll hate someone and like, I can't. But then you're buying them a Christmas present. You're like, you don't even like this person. Yeah, but it's your cousin. I'm like, yeah, but you don't like them. Have you ever sat down?
Yeah.
Right? Because they always say blood's thicker than water, right? And I go, yeah, but if the blood is toxic, you need to get a blood transfusion.
A lot of people are probably nodding their heads right now to that.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because we accept certain things because people say, well, it's family. Yeah, but that's enabling people. I've seen families and there's a person in the family and they're a complete crackhead and they've looted everyone and they've stolen from everyone and I do the intervention. And I'm like, yeah, but this person, you can see the problems. Yeah, but it's my brother. I don't care. They're going to, something bad.
Take that family title out of the equation, you would have a completely different relation to this experience.
You're enabling the person.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I always say, I will support your recovery or I will support positive decisions. I will support empowering choices. I will support that. And I will give you tools and I'll offer you a better way. But if you want to just go the other way, I'm not supporting it. Oh, you're a mean person. No, I'm setting boundaries.
That.
Right?
Yeah.
Not mean. I'm being honest. Oh, yeah, but no, your idea of what honest is and authentic is different to mine. Because I can say no to people. Yeah, no, I can't. Can't play by those rules.
You know, I've had some addiction specialists on the show before and people who have gone through their own period of addiction. And I've asked this question pretty much to everybody, but I'm curious your answer here today. People who suffer from addiction and they make a choice, a series of choices to remove themselves from that world, that path of addiction, they tend to, in my experience, put themselves on a different path that some people might argue is just a different form of addiction. We become obsessed with marathons. We go the opposite route and just turn into a super health nut, or we just go. I think, like you're saying earlier, channel that energy, channel that family trauma, channel that essence into something that is, air quote here, healthier, or at least just not destroying their life. Is that the case? Does addiction ever really go anywhere? It just gets rerouted?
Well, I think that's such a good question. I think we're all different. And I think addicts substitute, right? So I knew there was a point. I think anyone that suffered a lot of trauma and hasn't gone through like a lot of talk therapy and deep like unraveling will be kind of inclined to run through it or push through it. Like I love David Goggins, but there's a lot of trauma there. He's one of my favorites, but there's a lot of trauma, right? At what point, and even Buddha talks, right? At what point is the suffering, the emaciation? Like, what am I running from? What am I trying to run through? And what I've discovered,
He's literally running through fires right now.
Right. but if I can't sit in it, there's a reason, right? You got to be able to sit in it. I learned this great lesson. It changed my life. I was in a Bikram yoga class in 2006, and it was August. I got sober in April. It was in New York City. Had to be about 110 degrees. It was, and the heater's on, and I was friends with this girl, and she's like, "Come to Bikram." And I'll never forget, I was in this standing bow position. And at the time, I was doing Kyokushin karate. I was running 5 miles a day. I was doing 45 minutes of jump rope, like all the extreme stuff, being an athlete, right? And being a great sprinter as a kid. And that would never, and fighting and like sparring, and that wouldn't mess with me. And I was standing in this pose, and I was looking down, I was sweating, and my heart was racing. And I was like, how is my heart racing? It confused me. So the next day I went to class, and I did the same pose, and I put a heart rate monitor on it. And my heart rate was like 155, 158. And I'm like, how could it be? Wow. What is it triggering in my body? So I never really paid much attention to it. And when I started writing this book, I could feel a lot of trauma. I was getting stuck because I didn't want to ghostwrite. I had to push through it. I'm dyslexic, ADHD. Like I had to sit down and write. And I was tight in my legs and my groin. And I was like, oh my God, this is back to the Bikram stuff. I've got to stretch through this, not run through it.
All right.
So I stopped because I was running 10 miles a day at the time because running's easy. But running can give me that high, the runner's high. I had to start really stretching my body. And by really deep stretching, the trauma, I pulled all this trauma out of my body. And then I started to really understand the power of yoga and deep stretching and what stays stuck in the trauma and the sympathetic nervous system. Do you know what I'm saying? So now for me, the stretching is way more important than running. Yes, I lift weights, I do that, but if I have to stretch and stretch my body, because that centers me. And it's hard. Stretching is hard. It's very different. Stretching is the hardest thing. Running's easy. I can run all day. I get a high, I can go to the gym, but sitting down and sitting in a posture, and when your mind is racing, coming back to the moment, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And especially when it hurts.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to lean into it. And you're like, got to keep leaning into it. But that stuff really pulls out all the aggression and the anger and the trauma. It's really important.
Do you ever think about, or do you have to you, real life concern or even fear that all the ways now that you are channeling your addiction and leaning into these new ways to choose uncomfortability to hopefully then get your life more comfortable, do you ever worry that there's going to be a point where that's not enough anymore?
No, because I think now I'm okay with myself.
So, okay, so it's less about chasing that sensation,
I don't
chasing
chase
that
it
high,
anymore.
Because you have a better sense of identity now?
I just don't chase it anymore. I just sit in me. I'm okay with me. I'm okay with my past. Like I reunited with an old friend. I had to call her up and make an amends and about some stuff. And she's like, she knew me at my worst, right? And she's like, does anyone really know how crazy you were? Because she see me at my worst. And I said, I think that some people do, but people that see me sober don't know because it was a completely different change.
They know you as a different person.
Yeah, because I show up. I've got a temper, but back when I was using coke and smoking crack and doing heroin, like I was out of my mind, right? And I think for me, it was always try to prove that I was enough because I didn't get any like really good affection as a kid. So when I really was like a great runner, but I was told I was a show off, right? I was never like praised for being a good runner, or if I did something exceptional, no one actually gave me credit. So then I was always trying to chase that to get the credit.
Interesting. So like I've got to just outperform even more, level up even more.
And kind of eventually they're going to get it. And then look, I'll be honest with you, my book's in bookstores. My parents will never read my book.
Ah, come on.
Seriously. Yeah, that's real shit. None of my siblings have congratulated me. But but I'm okay with it now. Like my dad will ring me up and ask me if I have a job. And I left home back in 1993.
Come on.
I swear to God. I've done TV. I'm on the TV show fucking Intervention, saving people's lives. And they have no clue because I chose to take the hero's journey. And that was because I got kicked out of school at 16. So I'll tell you that. And you're like, but I'm not affected by it anymore. Before it was like, I'll fucking show you guys. And now like you see one part of my movie and you just didn't see the whole film. You checked out. You saw the first 16 years. And then I left Perth at 19 and I've had this great life, right? And I've done shows, I write books. I'm one of the top interventionists there is. I'm one of the most called guys there is. Like people call me.
Incredible. You're changing other people's lives.
You know what I mean? But my
daily.
family will never see it like that. They'll literally ask me if I have a job. And it's like, okay. So I'm not now searching that approval because I know I've arrived at a really good spot. And at the end of the day, man, I know I'm kind and I'm a good person. And that's all I do. Like I was in the grocery store the other day. And whenever I'm frustrated and things don't go as planned or someone gaslights me, instead of being angry, I just go and be of service. So I was in the grocery store and there was a girl in front of me and she couldn't pay for groceries. So I was just like, it's whatever. And I said, I'll pay for it. She's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, of course I will. You want to eat? So I paid for her groceries. I said, what's your name? She's like, Destiny. I said, there you go. There's your destiny. I paid for your groceries. And she smiled. And she's like, what do you want me to do? And I said, just be kind. So the lady, the cashier knows me. She goes, that's so great. I'm like, I always do that. So I go out to my car and a guy follows me and he said, can I speak to you? I said, yeah, of course. He's like, what do you do? And I said, I'm a speaker, coach, interventionist. He's like, if you didn't do that, I was going to do that. And he goes, but
Was this the guy behind you?
yeah, he goes, it was so awesome you did that. I said, and he said, do you write books? I said, I do. I've got a book. I had a book in the car, gave it to him. He said, we have a credit union down the street. And I just left a meeting and we were like, we need a speaker, an inspirational speaker.
No way.
I swear to God. He goes, here's my card. We'll buy your books. There's 150 people in the office. Right. Now, if I wasn't of service,
Wow.
right? And I didn't get out of my own way when a deal didn't go my way, and I was kind and compassionate and a good person. See, if I was caught in my head, what would have happened is I'd have been like, just get out of the way. You can't pay your bill. It's not my problem. Instead of saying, she can't pay a bill. And not worrying about my shit at home or this guy that dipped me on a speaking gig, right? Worrying about scarcity. I'm like, yeah, do you need to eat? Like, let me help you. And because I feed her, the universe feeds me.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, brother. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I always look at. How can I not bleed people, but feed them? And what I said the other day, which hits people, when I stop trying to prove the world and I look to improve the world, how can I make the world a better place? How can I improve people's lives? I've got nothing to prove anymore. Guess what? I get everything. The universe's plan pays me 100 times more than my plan of ego to compare myself. I need a bigger house. I need this. I need to do this. I need that. When I think like that, I miss all the opportunities that the universe is like, get out of the way.
Yeah.
I got you.
Shit.
Just be a good person, right? Stop being a douche.
It makes me think in these moments when it's so easy, so natural to react in a way that might be the perceived norm. You know, somebody cuts you off in traffic, you get pissed, you flick them off, or any kind of altercation in your day-to-day life that gets you off of your path. It's almost as if in that moment, you are taking the days, weeks, months, years that you have spent devoted to building a better life for yourself, crafting a better mindset. And you're just going, you know what? It's all worth just giving that up here today. Let me just take all of that time, all of that energy, all of the books, the podcasts, the course, the meditation, all that, and just give it to this random stranger who I probably will never, ever see again in my life. We had this experience that lasts 20 seconds, if that. And then we have a debt to pay later because we have to come back to center. We have to gather our thoughts. We have to, you know, maybe now deal with the situation. But what you just talked about there was recognizing moments where my power could be taken or I can empower somebody else. And in doing so, I am continuously empowering myself.
If I look to empower people, all right, I'll give you a perfect example. The other day, I always run the tape now. There was a girl in the grocery store and a guy was screaming at her because they'd moved the mac and cheese.
Oh,
and I was like, dude, you need to calm down.
It reminds me of an old Dane Cook skit. It's
but
like, where's the jelly?
Yeah, right. But it's true, jelly? Right? It's like, and I was like, you need to calm down.
Yeah.
And he's like, and the first thing he says is, what are you, a tough guy? And I said, there's nowhere in my vocabulary that I say I was a tough guy, but I'm like, I don't think she made the decision. She's working the cashier. She's a cashier. I worked in grocery stores, packing groceries. If the manager says move stuff, you move it. So he was all heated up and he couldn't get out of his sympathetic nervous system. He's in fight mode. This girl feels threatened. I said, dude, you need to calm down. Like, let it go. I'll pay for the mac and cheese. So now this is the difference now. He's like, I'll see you in the parking lot. I'm like, to do what? What are you going to do? I'm a guy that's been in hundreds of fights in the club business. I'm out of my mind. I'm an addict. So I run the tape. I'm not going to, first of all, I'm not hitting someone over mac and cheese, and I'm not getting shot over mac and cheese. So if I hit him and knock him out and he could die, it's over mac and cheese.
Yeah.
If he pulls a gun out and shoots me over mac and cheese, I die. Either way, I'm not fighting over mac and cheese. So what do? Is I walk by and go, whatever, dude, and I let it go. Yeah, keep walking. I'm going to keep walking to my car. It's mac and cheese. You're out of your mind. Now, second case, if I come in the grocery store and there's a guy punching the crap out of a woman over mac and cheese, I'm jumping in because I'm running the tape that I'm jumping in to help her and be of service. And if the cops come and they've got video cameras, I'm going to be like, this guy's beating the crap out of a woman over mac and cheese. Yeah, I choked him out. He needs to go to jail. If I have to go to jail for that, I'll take that. Do you see what I mean? That's the difference I look at now. So even when I was coming here, there was a guy that cut me off in traffic. Instantly, my sympathetic nervous system is through the roof, right? But I'm like, oh whatever. Let him go. I don't care. I'm not going to chase you. I don't know where you're going. I don't know where you left. I don't know the hurry you're in. I'm always early. I prepare, even on planes, right? I'm always early. I am so early. Why? Because it's a day of flying. So I expect traffic. I expect delays. I expect people to be crazy, right? So I'm always early. And if people are grumpy and they bump me, I'm like, dude, go before me. Go before me. Do you know what I mean? So proper preparation prevents piss poor performance, right?
Yeah, and you hit a key word there, expectations. I think that's the root of a lot of our frustration and the root of our getting in our own way is we have just these ridiculous aware or preconceived expectations of how our day, how the world, how others
should operate, right?
Exactly, yeah. But what you're talking about here is such a simple mindset shift to just get out of that expectation mode. And if we just expect the opposite, if we expect something different, it's, you're walking, it takes me back to my military days, you're going through an experience and you're like, oh, this is like a cleared friendly zone. But then all of a sudden there's an ambush. Like, no, that's a completely different situation. But if you're going intelligence reports, we have, hostiles in the area, you're on guard. You're in a completely different mindset. You're literally a different human being. But it's all a matter of how you go into that situation.
Yeah, and I think that's why rituals and routines are the most important thing, and doing your breath work and understanding when you're triggered, understanding your triggers, understanding what triggers you, why you're triggered.
And that we can untrigger ourselves.
Of course, by breathing and regulating. And like they say, create a gap between the stimulus coming in and how you choose to respond, right? So it's like, for me, I just do the basics. Right? Get up early, meditate, read, write, journal, prepare, always prepare. I'm always really early. And then I get the parking spot right out in front.
Yeah, you did.
Right? I don't worry about anything.
Yeah.
And then when I'm presented with information, I sit with it. I just sit with it. Okay, what is this? Let me give myself a chance to see it. I don't race. See, there's nowhere to go. Where are we going to go?
There is, though, right?
Where are we going?
These finish lines.
All right,
these,
but
these mountaintops.
That's called destination disease. Arriving at the destination, it's a disease to think you know how you're going to feel.
Let's go there. Please unpack that more.
Okay, so I'm going to get the perfect girl. I'm going to make a certain amount of money. I'm going to graduate from Harvard. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to win an Olympic medal at win a gold medal in the Olympics, right? What happens the next day? It's done. It's forgotten about. That's destination disease. You never arrive, right?
You're always in pursuit of.
You're always pursuit, but here's the best thing. You don't worry about arriving. See, I can just be present here, right? And this is why I tell people, if you have a plan and you have a desire, I desire to get this, right? And let's just say you come up short, okay? Or let's just say you win. 24-hour rule. Celebrate the win for 24 hours. Suffer the loss for 24 hours. You get 24 hours to reset.
But that kind of goes against norms, right? We think in celebration or a win or we accomplish something that we set out to accomplish, we deserve, we earn the right to exceed
but why?
In the glory.
You won the Super Bowl.
Right.
Okay, what happens the
why
next day?
Why not set the same parameters around if we win or lose, the same scenario?
But it's neutral because it's just, what is it at the end of the day? It's all forgotten. I tell people, it's a real simple exercise. I go, when was the last time you went to like the cemetery? They're like, why? And I'm like, that's reality.
Oof. Damn.
Where do you end up? Look, the two of us are standing next to Bill Gates and all the billionaires in the world, right? There's, I think, 2,685 billionaires, and I think there's a net worth of $117 trillion. Wow. Something like that. Wow. It's like, line them all up. Let's line them all up against you and I. Last day to live. We face our creator. Can I take my underwear? Nothing goes with you. Everything's for rent. All the things that you and I own go to someone else. Right or wrong? That's reality.
That's the ultimate ultimatum.
But that's real, right? Nothing comes with us. I believe I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And I have to figure out whatever the experience is in the moment. I take nothing with me. All I can do, I can't actually leave you anything. It's what I leave inside you that matters.
Damn. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to remember the watch. You're going to remember how I made you feel. So if every day I can go around and drop a little dose of positivity on someone. I didn't affect you. That one little drop of dose of positivity to make you feel worthy, to make you feel seen, you go then and help the next person. The compound interest and ripple effect of that is massive by just helping one person every day smile and feel good about themselves. That's it. That's all I do every day. I come out of my house, my neighbor had a stroke. My other neighbor has kidney disease. My other neighbor is suffering cancer. My other neighbor lost both his parents. My other neighbor lost her husband. That's my morning walk. Just saying hi to those people, making them feel good. I haven't even left my neighborhood yet.
Damn.
Then I go to the grocery store. How many people can I touch in my grocery store? The greatest thing that my son's kindergarten teacher said to me was, your son is kind, compassionate, and empathetic.
The best feedback.
Right?
Wow. That's a reflection of you and your wife.
How's this? When I had my book signing, I don't watch him. Every person that walks in the book signing, he goes, I have to hug you. It's my daddy's book signing. How
old is he?
He's 5. I've never beat him once. I've never put my hands on him once. I did not want to download all my trauma on him, right? I make mistakes like any parent, but I've never put my hands on him. I've never screamed at him. He'll never walk around and say, my daddy called me a loser. My daddy said, I'm like, what do you want to do? This is the job. He looks at me. I went to Nice with him. I had to carry this kid on my shoulders 8 or 9 miles a day. Because he didn't, I might just jump on my shoulders. I'll carry you. Did I get home? Was my back stiff? I said to my wife, I need to meditate. I need to stretch. She's like, why? I'm like, I'm dying carrying this 50-pound kid. The point is that I will walk in the snow to let him drive a Bugatti, but I'll teach him one thing. He's got to be kind. He's got to be of service. When he sees a homeless person, I go, give him change. He doesn't have a home. You have a home. Always be kind. He's like, okay. And he knows that person doesn't have a home. I have a home.
Amazing.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That reminds me of a concept that I have gone from hearing to completely adopting and believing in. And that's, if we want to change the world, and I think a lot of us do, if we want to change the world, we have to first change our world. This reminds me of something I actually struggled with a lot in grad school. So I got my master's in health promotion and nutrition. And I would always struggle with some of the professors about, it was a mass approach. It was, we need to target populations, we need to target neighborhoods. And at that point, I was already in clinic every day with individuals working on behavior change, weight loss, exercise. And I began to kind of already pivot in my belief that, that's a good way to go, but we're just spraying and praying. If I'm in front of a person every day, and we all are, I have an opportunity, an obligation, I believe, to be the best me, to represent my ideal world, and hopefully imprint on somebody else, to show them an example of what can be, but also to empower them, to help each other. Because then after that, we're just out there in the world carbon copying all of that, and that's the ripple effect.
Yeah.
That's the change that I think anyone listening to this show is absolutely looking for and hoping for in the world. But here's the opportunity, here's the calling out to do that.
Look, you just nailed it. And this is what I told someone the other day. Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to look at their community.
Oof, yeah.
Right? So I said to someone the other day, I said, do you know why I'm completely unbreakable and I don't care? He said, why? And I said, all right, I have no ego. So if I had to provide for my family tomorrow, I'll go work at a Starbucks. I don't care. Now, within 3 weeks, I'm going to outwork everyone in the Starbucks, and they're going to say to me, you probably should, you start say I start at the lowest section, they're going to move me up because I want to be there.
Own
right?
office, yeah.
And what's going to happen after 6 months, I'm probably going to be an area manager. Why? Because I have discipline, I take nothing personal, and I'll just outwork you. I will just outwork you. Now, I go into everything with that mentality. See, what I tell people is this: you don't need money to start. What builds self-confidence and self-esteem is building a skill set. So if I lean into my inclination, right, and I work out how to bring you value by being of service, you have to pay me for what you value. Now, this is where people get it confused. There's 4 parts to learning. You're unconscious and you're incompetent. You don't know what you don't know. Then you become consciously incompetent. Now you know how incompetent you are. That's hard and messy. No one wants to work through it. You work through hard and messy. Most people have quit, right? You become consciously competent. Not there yet. Once you are there, it's an unconscious competence. It's flow. It's ingrained in the DNA. So think about how many people are unconsciously incompetent with things they shouldn't be doing. I get up in the morning and I reach for this, or I do this, or I scream at people. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you lean into your inclination and you go, I'm just going to work hard on my skills, do the work in the dark to shine in the bright lights, and my purpose is to bring value to other people, they will eventually pay me because people pay you for what you value. Now, if you stand in line long enough, you get to the front. So you've got to be so good you can't be ignored.
If you stand in line long enough, you eventually get to the front.
Right? So
like that.
how many people quit before the magic happens?
Yeah.
So all I do, someone said to me, how will you make it in America? I'm like, they speak English, right? They're like, yeah. I'm like, I just outwork everyone. I knew I was good at acting. I knew I had some skills there. I knew I was great at selling.
How many people come here and don't speak English and still outwork and outperform
you,
everybody?
right?
Yeah.
And I said, if I just simplify my life, rule of thirds, okay? When I make money, simply make money. I don't get comparison syndrome. I do what I can afford. I get a small place, I eat. Second part of rule of thirds, save a little bit of money to invest it in things that bring me value and myself. Third part, now a little bit of fun and vacation within my realm.
Within means, yeah,
right.
absolutely, yeah.
What do people do? 1 to 3, they don't work on themselves. They don't save any money, right? And then they're always broke, living check by check.
As you were talking, it reminds me of this phrase that I pulled from some former guests of the show. I'll link this down in the notes for everybody. B and Azria Becker. They have this book called Becoming. And in it, there's this quote. The goal here, as you discover a version of yourself that is deeply solid but is never rigid, the goal here is to emanate a warmth that makes other people's nervous systems unwind in your presence without you saying a single word.
Wow.
When I read that and then had them here to unpack that, I was like, that's it. That's the goal that I am after. That's living a life ever forward, to where you're, like you're saying, you're at that end, you're unconsciously competent, but it goes beyond you. That's the whole point.
Wow.
You are a better person, and you are the person you hoped you could be and will be able to continue to be. But then that causes a ripple effect for others around you.
Well, I mean, that goes into hurt people, and
Right,
heal people,
yeah.
heal people.
Right. It's
You're just
Both
so
are true.
centered and calm that people match your energy because they feel the vibration of like, oh, I'm safe. That's really powerful.
Emanate a warmth that makes other people's nervous systems unwind in your presence without you saying a single word. Wow. That's it, everybody.
That's special. Oh,
Mike,
wow.
I want to ask you, kind of going back a little bit more here to the world of addiction, because I do think that this word is very timely. And I think a lot of people are addicted to different things here in the modern world, 2023. And we either are aware of it and it's a joke because it's, it's social media, it's what everybody's doing, or we're unaware of it and it potentially could be a slippery slope. And I think this is especially true for people in the entrepreneur space, creatives. And you were hanging around with these types of people before that was the word, artists.
Yeah.
And, the last time I met you, I was fanboying over, these photos you were sharing with Scott Weiland and all these just great 90s rock groups that I just grew up adoring. I think the same would be said for them, the artists, people that just have this thing inside of them that they have to find an outlet to get it out, whether that's music, whether that's painting, whether that's video, YouTube, podcast, whatever. Do you think creatives, artists are more inclined to addiction of a variety of sorts than the average person, the person who is not an artist or creative?
You know what's really interesting? I think we're all addicted to something.
That's a bold statement.
And I think, but I just think some addictions are more destructive than others.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, substance, it's cocaine and it's like, alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
But then meditation to me, I'm addicted to meditating, but that's not destructive. That gets me centered. So when I start to look at, I think all the world's a stage and we're all players. I think we're all creators at different levels, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I think some people are just have a deeper reservoir to create. So if you listen to, say, someone that writes great book, like Stephen King, for example, right? I can't articulate myself like Stephen King. It's just not my talent, right? But I can write books and I write them the way I write them. But if you listen to read Stephen King and the way he writes his books, it's just like, that's a really deep well. Mm-hmm. So I think everyone has a different well, right? With their creativity bubble and what we draw from. So, but I think we all have, I know people that are addicted to their phones. Some people are addicted to sugar. Some people are addicted to junk food. Some people are addicted to bad relationships.
Yeah.
Right? Some people gamble. Some people it's porn.
Orthorexia, or addicted to healthy habits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we all have something. And I think part of the human experience is for us to do our best to find the middle ground every day in our own thing. But if you really start to, there's no rules to addiction. I think when you start to really study people, I think what we do is we spotlight certain behaviors. But if you pull back, and I guess I get a different look at it because I see some people that you would think on the outside have it together and they're...
No one does. No one does.
No. We're all figuring it out.
Yeah.
We're all just figuring it out moment by moment. And that's why I tell people, when people say, oh yeah, I was under stress, right? I go, no. Under pressure, true character is revealed.
Ooh, I like that.
Right? So when people say, well, I was under pressure, I snapped, that's who you are. Someone that snaps under pressure. So when I look at a guy like, and I talk it in my book, there's direct mentors where people could call you and I directly and we mentor them. Then there's indirect mentors where you're indirectly affected by the journey of another person that inspires you, educates you, or motivates you, right?
Like someone that we read or follow
Fantastic,
or listen to.
Right?
Yeah.
So my favorite indirect mentor is Viktor Frankl.
Not a bad one.
Right? Why? Because I think, wait a second, he went through Auschwitz and was calm and peaceful. Now, Stockdale's another one, General Stockdale, who
the
prisoner of war.
POW.
Yes,
Yeah.
right? So when I look...
years,
8 years, beating, whatever, and always had faith he'd get out. So for me...
Stoic fan as well.
There you go, right?
Stoics,
exactly. If I look at those guys as my indirect mentors and I'm driving down the highway and I'm in sunny Southern California with these first world problems, and they're really first world problems. And I think, all right, what would Stockdale say to me right now? Or what would Viktor Frankl say? They'd be like, Mike, seriously? I'm in a prisoner of war camp, or I'm in Auschwitz. You're walking down the street and someone cuts you off, or they didn't give you a speaking gig. Seriously. Or you got a little lawsuit. Get a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? So that makes me reframe my perspective.
Sure.
Of like that kind of like, slow down. So I think to me, it's like looking at like those people and looking at myself, and then that's really, to me, those guys are like the purest.
It's hard to top that.
Because you are under pressure.
Objectively, the worst case scenarios anyone could ever hope to find themselves
and they were stoic, and they remained peaceful. It's like Nelson Mandela does 28 years and he comes out peaceful.
Yeah, he's like, cool. Okay.
He could have set fire to the world, right? So to me, those people have got this point where where's the addiction in that? They're not ruminating. You can be addicted to your thoughts. You can be addicted to anger. You can be addicted to negative emotions. You can be addicted to your resentments. You know what I mean? So people look at one of these things, but then I say, okay, so there's a guy or a girl, and you're like, how did they drop dead at like 40 years old? They have a massive tumor. I'm like, well, what were they doing in their mind? You thought it was perfect. How many people do we see now dropping dead? Really young, right? Aneurysms, Right. So what's going on? So it's like, I don't think.
Harbored stress.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you're addicted to your
Harbored
stress.
emotions, inner
Right?
thoughts. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
addicted to your stress. You're addicted to your past. You're addicted to your trauma. It could go on forever. So I think we're flawed. We're all flawed. Right?
Is it possible for us to ever be our own mentor? Because you're talking about people here who were in, objectively, again, the world's worst case scenarios, the worst experience a human could ever find themselves in. And they were leaning into life experiences of others. I think in one way you could say it's a coping mechanism. Like the human consciousness needs to detach itself from this scenario and kind of go somewhere else. But maybe the person listening right now goes, hopefully you can think of the show and Mike and me, but I don't have that person. Or when I'm in worst case scenario, when I'm in the shit, in my addiction or just in my poor health, whatever that might be, I can't think of somebody else. I can't get out of my own way and go think about somebody else that had it worse or go call on that mentor. I need to be able to call on myself. How do we do that?
I think I think what you just said is really brilliant. So I think it's so weird you said this. I got up the other morning at 4 a.m. and because I get myself up.
Seems to be a theme so far. For
3 or 4 in the
All
morning, right? And I was really sore. And I was stretching my body, and I know I have to stretch no matter how I feel. And I was stretching my body, and I was like, wow, how interesting. It's dark. I'm stretching my body, and it doesn't matter what my parents said. It doesn't matter if I had billions of dollars. It doesn't matter if I had the best Olympic coach. I have to stretch my body in the morning. So I think what you've got to do is gather the information, but then you have to have the ability to actually do the work yourself.
To apply it to yourself and find meaning.
And I think the mentors help you and they inspire you and they teach you that it's work, but then you have to, like Kobe wasn't the greatest player. He realized after he lost to Utah, at 17, 18, he had to go get his, go back to the gym and throw thousands of free throws over the summer because he's like, that's a different level. No, Phil Jackson wasn't going to mentor him on that. He had to do it. And he had great people around him. The mentors help us see what's possible.
Right. Yeah.
But we have to still walk the path.
Yeah.
They can show us the path, but we still have to walk it. Do you know what I mean? Like I could have Carl Lewis as the greatest runner. I used to love Carl Lewis back in the day. To me, he was my best. And Carl Lewis could be my coach, but I've still got to go up and run the hills by myself. So the mentor is the inspiration that it's possible. And here are the tools. But if you run, 1050s and you run the hills, I've still got to get my ass up and run the hills. So the mentor can't carry you. Your parents can't carry you. The bank account can't carry you because at the end of the day, I got to carry myself up the hill.
And that reminds me, I forget where I was talking about this recently, maybe social media or something, that we often, I think, don't give ourselves enough credit for the hard times that we have been through and the holes that we have pulled ourselves out from, because in the new holes and in the new shit storms, that goes out the window.
Yeah.
The next time that you are having the worst day ever, you don't know when you're going to get out of the situation. The end isn't in sight. You're maybe struggling with an addiction of some sort. You can't snap out of it. You've been here before in some capacity.
Yep. No, you nailed it. And that's
we've all felt the bottom before.
Yep. And I think that's the only reason you have a mentor. And that's when you read an inspiring story to say, okay, they've gone through it. I can get through it. And just, you know what? The best thing is just stay in the moment. Just get through the moments.
I think having a mentor, this is kind of a new rule of thirds here. I think having a mentor, having these people that we can call on, listen to, read, go to show us what is possible. That is an end outcome. That is a finish line. Okay, a finish line is possible that I can relate to. That's point B, I'm at point A. Recall on, that's best case scenario. Go back to worst case scenario of yourself. Go back to your worst day ever. Now you have comparison. You have relevance. I was at the bottom here. There's the top over there. I'm somewhere in the middle. Now let me come to the present moment and figure out which direction I want to go. Because right now I have two options. Nobody wants to go back to that worst case scenario. We know this finish line is possible because we have proof. where do you want to go?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go?
And just stay on course.
Mm.
Just, it's not supposed to go as planned. Just, am I okay right this second? And if you're not, just say I'm struggling. It's okay.
I'm so glad you said that. I think that has been one of my favorite truths that I have been sharing maybe the last couple of years. I've slowly adopted this belief of meaningful small talk. You know, when I'm in an Uber or I'm talking to somebody, or even just say, hey, what's up, man? Instead of going, oh yeah, hot weather, or insert any kind of bullshit response here, actually being honest and going, dude, today sucks. I mean, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer for everybody.
No, you're just being real.
Padding it a little bit, being real, and just go, oh man, I've had better days.
Yeah.
You know, you can move on. But I have found the level of just feeling like I can finally take a breath by letting a little bit of that out and opening up the channel for a truthful, meaningful conversation, however short-lived it might be. Man, it deepens that relationship. I wind up talking to my Uber driver about something really interesting for the whole course of my trip. I have a great conversation with the person, getting my coffee. They also then kind of feel a safe space. There's that nervous system safe space we've been talking about, that like, okay, you know what? I don't have to put on this facade either. I can actually be somewhat truthful and let my guard down a little bit. I'm going to feel better. This person's going to feel better. Then we're both going to have better days about it.
Yeah, I think that's just, I had a neighbor, I could see she was struggling. And I just said, you okay? She's like, I'm not. I just gave her half an hour just to dump. She's like, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. I'm like, it's fine, it's fine. So it's like she dumped all the stuff and she had a toxic boss. And I was like, what are you doing? She goes, I'm an accountant. I'm like, you know what? Just try to send out some resumes. I said, where do you think you want to work? She's like, I want to live in Phoenix. I said, okay. I saw her last week and she grabbed one of my books. She read it. She's like, you changed my life. I said, what do you mean? She goes, I got a job in Phoenix. I'm selling my house. I'm out.
Wow.
And I was like, oh.
I'm just unpacking that little conversation.
How did I change your life? She goes, you just let me speak. I didn't think I was going crazy. A lot of the time I get on the phone to people, I'll get interventions. I just listen. And I'm like, okay, you're in the weeds. It's okay. I've been in the weeds. Let's just do the basics. And then once you get the basics done, it's just day by day, you know?
That's so true, man. Oftentimes, it reminds me of back in my coaching days, some of the best sessions I ever had with my clients and some of the best results and most adherent results we ever had didn't always come from when I provided a solution. I get, hey, here's what you need to eat. Here's how you need to move your body. It was just holding space for that 30-minute hour session and letting them express themselves long enough and then give some feedback to then walk out empowered. And I used to call it this inception approach, where most people, I think, know what they want to do, know what they need to do. But until that idea is theirs first, it doesn't stick. We need to be 3 dreams deep in a conversation with someone. They voice the thing that we have been trying to hint at for God knows how long. Then when they finally wake up, they're like, that's what I'm going to do. Not because of somebody else told it to me, but I, in my core, believe it to be true. And I just didn't have enough safe space until now
to talk about it. Yeah. You just just let them talk through it. Yeah. That's so powerful. It's so true. But not many people, that's why growing up is tough. If you grow up in a toxic environment around people yelling and screaming, conditions, unrealistic standards.
Yeah.
You can't just sit with your thoughts. And most people don't know what they think and how they feel because they've never had a chance to actually look at those feelings and thoughts and unpack them and say, why do I really think that? Like, why do I really think? Why am I feeling it? Do I really like that? Do I dislike it? I don't know. And it's okay not to know.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, I don't know.
That's the thing. Asking questions, many of us might believe, then has to come with an answer. But no, you don't have to have an answer for your question right now.
Yeah, you just say, I don't know. Let me sit in it. Let it come to you. And then if you don't know, you're like, I actually don't know. I don't have the answer. And that's okay as well. Sometimes you don't have the answer. I'm like, I I need more time. More needs to be revealed. I'm not going to rush. Who knows?
Mike, I want to ask you if you can think back on your time in addiction. What was your lowest low during that time? And what was your highest high, literally? Where were you? What were you doing? And what was the mindset like that state of being made you feel like what you're doing was like, this is a good thing. I want to keep this up.
It's like this. It's so funny. So the highest high was kind of weird because it became my lowest low. My highest high was when Scott and I were when VH1 agreed.
Scott Weiland, lead singer of Stone Temple
Pilots, was in Velvet Revolver at the time. VH1,
I love that band.
VH1 had agreed to do a pilot
with
us, and we were shooting the pilot, and I was just out of my mind, right? And then the lowest low was 2 weeks after we'd shot the pilot, and it was a couple of weeks after, I don't know, 2 weeks, but a couple of weeks after. And we were messed up and
drugs, cocaine.
Yeah, cocaine and that. And his wife, Mary, had enough. And she was just like, I'm done. I'm not going to play this game anymore. And for me, it was like, oh, the game's over. And for him, it was like, it's just whatever. I don't know I don't know what he was thinking, but I don't know if he was thinking, she won't leave me, or I just was like, it was too real for me.
He was unshaken by that.
Yeah, but I was. And I think what shook me more than anything, that he wasn't shaken, and I kind of didn't have kids, and I didn't have a wife. I was just out of my mind. And I zoomed out for once and saw the forest from the trees and was like, I don't know where this is going to go, but I just was like, I've climbed the wrong mountain.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not supposed to feel like this. It's not supposed to look like this. I came from Australia with nothing. Like, I thought, and that's why I say destination disease, right? But I'd become something I intuitively knew it wasn't my calling to go out like that. I'm not going to drug myself to death because it's cool. No one stopped me. I was getting tons of money.
And it sounds like you were in the time and place and with the people that feeding all of that.
I never paid for anything. It was just like, you're around the biggest rock stars in the world, hosting parties with them, traveling wherever you want. It's like, I know why people don't get out. Because you feed the beast and you think somehow you're going to get through it. You don't get through it. That's why people die. That's why people overdose. That's why people get in horrible car accidents. That's why people lose everything. That's why people sign horrible contracts, because you don't really, it's so surreal. And, when I landed in America with nothing, and then 6 months, a year later, 6 months later, I was running the hottest clubs in Miami at 23, 24 years old, and you're making thousands of dollars, and girls are literally begging you to get in, and rock stars are your friends. And you're like, huh? This is real? And you're standing at the front of a club in Miami.
How can this be bad?
You don't know. And I was sober at the time, and then you'd drink and you'd party like everyone else is doing it, and you don't know the catastrophe that's going to happen. It's like you're coming to the edge of the water's edge. You know what I mean? You know you're going to tip over. But
no one else is freaking out.
Everyone on the boat is going over, and you're not smart enough to know that the whole boat is going under. Like, everyone's going to drown. Everyone's going to drown. I've been in rooms with some of the biggest, you're like, I got to get out of here. But people just sit around going, oh yeah. It's like you're watching the tsunami come. You're like, is that a tsunami? No, it can't be. It wipes out the village. And that's what addiction is. And that's what living, like you say, the high life and getting caught up in the game. And now I don't regret anything. The only thing I regret is, and I don't regret it, but it's like time wasted.
Sure, yeah.
Like, every night was Saturday night, and it didn't have to be. Do you know what I mean? Like,
that's a lot to keep up with, man.
It's a fucking Wednesday at 3 PM. You think it's Saturday night. Like, what are you doing? And you're working. Not saying you're not working, but I was around people that could do massive amounts of coke and run millions and millions of dollars through their hands on Wall Street. Like, it was insanity. Jeez. I've never seen so much money, so much sex, so much debauchery. Just it's like it's like, I mean, I could never write about it, but my son will write about it one day because it's so surreal. Like, it's like, what?
Well, we've all seen Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
you know?
but it was that kind of level. It was that, it's crazy.
All right, so someone's listening right now to this conversation, and maybe I think one of two things are going to happen. One, they're going to have this gut feeling of, you know what, there's an addiction in my life. There's something I've been ignoring, I've been pushing down, or I'm at least questioning that I want to evaluate that relationship. Is it healthy or not? Two, there's going to be a curious person and want to just evaluate their life for the sake of, where can I optimize? Where can I maybe get ahead of something that is turning into an unhealthy habit, potentially addiction? What would you say to either of those people that wants to evaluate an addiction or just become curious about their life and their choices to maybe get ahead of an addiction? How could they do that?
Yeah, that's great. So I would always say, if it's a drug or alcohol thing, put it down. See how you feel.
That sounds so easy though.
Right, but see how you feel when you put it down.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna not drink for 6 months. Well, I couldn't do that. Why?
What about just today? Just don't drink.
No, but
today.
wait a second. If I say to you, if you think it's alcohol, and I go, don't drink for 6 months, and you make an excuse.
I see. Okay.
I'll give you the example. There's 2 guys in the drunk tank at jail. Guy goes over to the first guy. They both got caught. Will you drink and drive again? He says, absolutely not. It's the dumbest thing I've ever thought of doing. Not an alcoholic. He knows not to drink and drive. Second guy, will you drink and drive again? He goes, yeah, I just won't take the freeway. I'll take the back streets. So what I'm trying to say is, what's the excuse? If you can't put something down that you think and you're questioning it's destructive, look at why you think it's destructive and put it down. And if you can't put it down, ask yourself why.
So it's not as much the substance as it is the excuse.
It's the behavior. Addiction is a behavior. I'm an addict. Forget the substance. I've got to work on myself and my behaviors. See, I could not drink. I could not do drugs, but I could still be a savage. Right? So I said, look at your behavior. Okay? Why am I altering my mood? Remember, avoid pain, gain pleasure. What am I avoiding in myself? And why am I going to something external to feel the internal? So what am I doing that's altering my mood? And what's the problem? Well, I think it's drinking. Put it down. Go to meetings for 6 months. See how you feel. Well, I couldn't do that. Well, then you have a drinking problem. Well, it's the shopping online. Don't shop for 6 months. Yeah, but I have it, and your house is like full of things. You don't need anything, right? Then you have a shopping problem. Okay? You're dating online. Every night it's a different, don't date for 6 months. Well, I have to date. Why? Well, I need to feel the feeling. Right? You bought another cat. You got 52 cats. Why'd you buy another cat? Well, I need another cat because the cat needs friends. No, you don't. Don't do it for 6 months. See what you can put away for 6 months to a year, right? Now, let's just say you do a year and you get through the year, and then the first thing you do is do it.
Go back to that behavior. So then what then? You just prove that you can just table it for a while?
That you're just like white knuckling it, you know, like a dry drunk, right? So it's like, look at the behavior. And if you are thinking about it as well, like, I can't wait to drink. I can't wait to drink. As soon as I'm going to count up those 365 days. That's a problem. I can't wait to shop. And it's like everything else. Then you're not addressing something inside that needs to be addressed. There's a wound, there's some trauma, there's something that's coming up that you're not addressing. And once you address it, then you can move through it.
Would you apply that same advice to the person who's maybe like the second part, addiction curious? You know, I'm wondering if I'm too addicted to online shopping.
Then stop shopping.
Okay, yeah.
Do you really need it, or is it a want?
That seems so easy though.
No, but think about it. Yeah. I go to someone the other day, they got a BMW, and I'm like, well, I need the car. No, you're like, you need transport. You're in debt, massive amounts of money. Why do you have the BMW? Well, it makes me look good. Boom. Makes me look good. You need transport. but you're putting yourself out there in a way that you have to compare yourself. Look, if you strip it down, right, you don't need a lot of clothes. Look, all the really successful guys, they're minimalists. They barely wear anything. They wear the same crap. They get by because they know how to simplify their lives.
Talk about reducing decision fatigue.
Right?
Too.
Exactly. Reduce decision fatigue. Strip it down and go from there.
Well, all of this, I think, when we soak it up, mull it over, and then apply it, is going to help us move forward in a area of our life, or if not all areas of our life, ever forward, as I say. My final question, Mike, is when you hear those two words, ever forward, what does that mean to you? If you were to describe what it means to live a life ever forward in your world, through your eyes, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, so first of all, it's so good.
Thank you.
Because I always feel like we're always moving forward. And for me, time always moves forward. So I just have to stay present and allow things to move forward by making empowering choices.
Time waits for no one. That's what a great reminder that
right. It's always
to move forward. We don't need to. It's going to do it for us anyway.
So we
just need to be here now.
Just be here now and allow it to unfold.
What a burden off of our shoulders. Like, because I think I'm actually kind of researching some stuff now for an upcoming episode I want to do solo, all about this quote I heard, this term, purpose anxiety.
Oh, that's great.
Purpose anxiety. I think I was looking at some old Rich Roll content or something. And, he's a former addict as well. And just, go, high success, ultra marathon. And, he was like, no, I'm going to be here now for a little while. And I think a lot of people are suffering from purpose anxiety right now. And we're in a great time to have this podcast, to have your book, and to learn ways that we can, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to better my life. I'm going to go. What's my purpose? What's my meaning, fulfillment? But talk about decision fatigue. What's the best hack? What's the best routine? What's the best book? What are the best podcasts? What are the best routines, supplements, training, nutrition, all of these things? And really, and this is coming from someone who does this for a living. I have these platforms. I've been looking for ways to move the needle, and then I share them here. I would tell everybody, just get still, get quiet, and just pay attention.
That's it.
Pay attention to what is going to inevitably just pour out of you. The answers are right here. You just got to get still.
You just nailed it. And I would just say this, just do the next right thing. That's it. Don't overthink it. Do not overthink it. Let the process unfold. Step back a little bit, let it unfold.
Well, Mike, where can people go to connect with you? I'm going to have all the information and book, of course, listed, but where are you hanging out the most online? Where can I connect?
Instagram, the Mike_Diamond. Instagram, that's where I'm pretty much live. I don't tweet much, and just because they can pull your tweets up from 10 years ago. And
Which I have to say, when I was kind of researching you a bit more, there is another Mike Diamond that is like this fitness junkie, just jack dude. I'm like,
no, it's not. There's
you're
the
in great
Beastie
shape
Boys.
too, but I was,
there's the Beastie Boys
too.
There's the plumber.
Oh, I didn't know about the plumber.
Mike D, the plumber, and I have colitis. And people, when I do speaking gigs, are like, it's not the plumber. There's the Beastie Boys. There's the plumber. Like, So it's
I did in that YouTube rabbit hole. I did wind up watching a Mike Diamond Beastie Boys interview anyway. I was like, I haven't seen anything from them in a while.
There you go. So it's not me. It's just
Mike, this is my pleasure, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, brother.